Hi, my name is Peggy Oberthere, and I'm a medical intuitive based in Melbourne, Australia. This is the Medical Intuitive Channel. Thank you for joining me. Today, we are very fortunate to have Catherine Vincent. Catherine has just joined our Medical Intuitive Directory. She is a holistic educator of 20 years experience. She is a yoga and meditation instructor. She is a medical intuitive of sorts. And we're going to ask you how you'd actually describe yourself because you've got a lot of talents, including energy channeling and energy reading, and you have incredible skill set with that in that area. Welcome to the show, Catherine.
Thank you. Great to
So,
be here.
oh, I'm so glad you're here. So, I'm going to start with asking, how do you, I mean, that's a big mouthful. How would you define your skill set? How would you sort of label it?
Sure. I mean, we can start with the academic domain as I've been an educator since 2007, and I've kind of done a lot of teaching since 2005. So I would say academic, and then we have the non-academic realm, which is physical, mental, emotional, social, spiritual. So I spent a couple of decades exploring academic support, and now I'm moving into physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual with the yoga, mindfulness, and meditation instruction, the intuitive readings, the energy healing, and I'm doing somatic studies as well as the mentorship with Patrice and Amy.
Fantastic. So you just completed the medical intuitive mentorship, and you also in your bio, I read that you're also studying counseling as well. Like you've
Right.
got this, you just love learning, which is fantastic. Um,
Yeah. And
now,
it sounds a bit scattered, but like it's all coming together. It's all actually quite unified to support personal development, physically, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually.
so tell us a little bit about your spiritual journey. How did you get to adding in the spiritual element to the holistic educator part?
Definitely. I did have a generational trauma and that's stuff that's been in my family. And I've had a lot of difficult experiences that had me turn towards spirituality when I went through difficult times. And so I was interested in aura readings and I received energy channeling from practitioners for a long time. I also experienced some mystical experiences throughout the years. It was more sprinkling in my first 30 years, and then it came in hard and fast the last few years. And so these are mystical experiences you can't explain with the logical mind. I also
Mm.
read a lot about near-death experiences, and I followed spiritual mentors. And so I've just been immersed for a very long time in studying spirituality. And so it's just natural that it would progress to spiritual studies.
I love it. I love it. So tell me a little bit more about your mystical experiences, because I think a lot of our listeners are, they're probably they can relate to some of these experiences. And so how have you, how have you taken that in, and how did you know you had gifts? And all right, tell us a little bit more about your mystical experiences.
Yeah, the first one I remember, I was in grade two, alone in a park, swinging in a parabolic arc. And I wanted to swing as fast and as high as I could and then jump off. And I wasn't thinking about the repercussions, of course. So I did it. And then when I jumped off, I was sailing through the air in a very slow way, as if a hand was holding me, as if I was sitting in an invisible car seat. It just took me through the air really slowly, and then I stopped a foot from the ground. I was still in that invisible car seat. My feet were floating a foot off the ground, and then it was only when, so the pretty much the world froze around me, and
Mm.
interestingly, I was the only one there, so no one could see. And then when I decided to put my foot down, that's when the world started again. I was back in reality. So that
Wow.
was interesting, but I just put it out of sight, out of mind because it didn't make sense to me.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah.
And so then from that, like, could you always, what were some of your gifts that you noticed when you were younger? And did this, and tell us a little bit more about these mystical experiences to the point where you go, okay, actually, I can read, I'm channeling information. So give us a little bit of a timeline of the how
Sure.
that developed.
Yeah. So I I was an empath from a young age. I mean, I feel like you're either born an empath or you're not. And by
Mm,
empath, I mean, you're able to experience what it's like to be another person, to be in their shoes, whether physically, mentally, emotionally, or spiritually. I know I keep repeating that phrase, but it's the truth, right? You're experiencing them on one or more levels. You might be experiencing nature or what it's like to be a crystal or what it's like to be some kind of machine. It really depends. There are different kinds of empaths. And so for me, I was really able to get on people's wavelength mentally and emotionally. And little glimpses of physically that would kind of come in later, but it was very easy for me to just speak to someone and understand how they think and to speak to them in the way that they think by matching the way they think. And I just did it naturally and I still do. And how that might manifest for anyone this resonates with is that you might speak differently to different people and it's just very natural. You're just like a mirror for them.
mm,
With the emotional resonance, I would say you just know people's emotions. You know what they're feeling, even if they're not showing it socially. You know what's going on. You're
mm,
quite intuitive in that way. Um, and you might feel it. You might feel their emotions as sensations in your body, in certain parts of your body. So that came in a bit later for me in life, the somatic wisdom.
and were you able to differentiate your somatic, sensations and theirs? Because a lot of empaths talk about this, being completely overwhelmed with emotions, and they're not really able to separate it, the bombardment around them of the people's emotions and then going
Yeah.
into their body. So how did you manage that particular transition?
It was tough because I grew up in difficult circumstances. I was kind of always in a troubled place growing up, and so when you're picking up stuck energies or just emotional states from someone else who's troubled, it's hard to discern. But
Mm,
when you get to a place where you've regulated your nervous system, you have a sense of inner ease, piece, then you definitely notice the contrast because that's clearly not mine. I'm chilling right now, you know. So that helps, but until then, it might be kind of difficult if you're kind of matching the
mm,
energy level of
yeah.
just the inner state of the other person.
Mm.
It
So
helps
how
to
did
turn
you,
it off
yeah,
too. Like if
yeah.
you keep it on, it's just an intention, right? As empaths, I think we learn from a very young age to put ourselves last and for the people around us to loom larger than life, like
Mm,
superheroes, right? You put them on a
mm,
pedestal because you're noticing them, you're taking everything about them in, and then you're focusing like the dial is at 100% or 10, the
mhm,
volume dial on them, and then on yourself, it's at 0. You're not noticing any of your needs or interest
mm,
what's going on with your body. So that can be an issue for you to become a bit of a doormat as you keep on taking in everyone's energies and
mm,
sensing them. So it's really important to be able to turn it off. Like you're either
mm,
turning it on and you're just always so open and porous and you don't have a strong sense of self, or you turn it on and off at will and you have all the power.
mm. That's amazing. And did you just learn that on your own, or how did you
Oh no.
learn?
No, no, definitely like there's a spiritual teacher who is an empath coach, and I really respect her teachings on empath empowerment. Her name is Rose Rosetree, and so you can Google her, look her up, and let me know what you think.
Wow, amazing. And how did you learn to regulate your nervous system?
So, partially that was due to my studies of yoga, mindfulness, and meditation. I took my
Mm,
basic YTT and then I took my advanced YTT plus the mindfulness and meditation part. And so we talked a lot about polyvagal theory, fight or flight, fawn, free state, and then entering into that regulated state as well. And these studies were echoed by my reading of Breathe by James Nestor. He's a breathing specialist. So he says you need to slow it down to 5.5 seconds per in and out breath. in
Wow.
order for the body to initiate that rest, digest, focus, and heal mechanism. And it's just other studies of breath work as well. And during my expressive arts therapy studies at Lesley University, it's also a master's in counseling, but I started the expressive arts therapy studies first. So I did that for a few months before going on a leave of absence due to finances. But there we also talked about polyvagal theory and
Mm.
freeze state. And when I learned about freeze state over and over again, it was just always that recognition that I was in freeze state my whole life. You know
Wow.
that you know Eeyore or Daria?
Yeah.
I like to use
Yes.
those examples. So you got the little slouch and your eyes don't have the light in them anymore,
Mm.
and your face is expressionless, your mind is
Mm.
blank, and your emotions are kind of blank too. You got this listless kind of low energy state, and it's not our natural state. It happens
Mm.
because of perhaps a cumulative kind of loading of stressful experiences in your mind, body, spirit system.
Yeah. It's like you just shut down. And I think a lot of, yeah, a lot of empaths, and I think previous guests have explained this, and this empath, growing up empaths, like they can get diagnosed with depression. And it's so common. It's just, but you're actually in that freeze state. You've just shut down everything. And yeah, I think you've explained that beautifully. And you attribute your practices of how did you like what are the major things that you use to get out of that freeze state, and what do you continue to use?
I love that question. So definitely breath work
Mm.
is important and grounding to get you out of fight or flight and into rest, digest, focus, and heal mechanisms, activating that parasympathetic nervous system.
Mm.
And all you do is you slow down your breath, you breathe a little bit more gently and slowly than you usually do. And over
Mm.
time, when it feels safe and comfortable, you slow it down more and more until you get to over 5.5 seconds per in and out breath. And then you also do other things to activate your vagus nerve, that longest nerve in your body, which activates your PNS. And it could be things like dancing, it could be just massaging the sides of your neck where your vagus nerve
Mm.
is. It could be a lot of things. It could be humming or just
Mm.
doing the things that thrill you. And besides breath work, there's also grounding. So just being in your body. And by grounding, you can go about it in a manner of ways. If you have access to the sand or the grass, then just walk barefoot, go hug a
Mm.
tree. Or, wherever you are, whether there's nature or not, you can just notice the parts of your body touching the earth or touching the
Mm.
bed or chair, whatever the bottom of your body is touching, just
Mm.
noticing all those parts touching the ground, maybe shifting around, helps you to focus more on your body and just get out of your head, out of your stories and emotions.
Mm.
So, grounding's a big one. You could also imagine a cord growing down from the parts of your body, touching the earth deep into the center of the earth, and just play with the idea that the energy is coming up through that grounding cord into your body, helping you to feel more a sense of aliveness.
Yeah, I love those suggestions. That's amazing. Now, you spoke briefly about the expressive arts. And how does that link with healing? I'm really curious how, I mean, I know that when I worked with a few clients and I can see that they're just very much stuck in their 9 to 5, and they used to dance, they used to draw, they used to paint, they used to listen to music, and they just kind of stopped. And that's part of the homework and suggestion in terms of getting into alignment. How how do you see integrating expressive arts into healing from trauma, healing from the freeze state or the fight and flight? What has been your experience?
I think that somatics could be a really good bridge. Somatics and breath work, embodiment, and just releasing stress first before we move into expressive movement or dance, for example. It depends. If the person was a former dancer, they might be ready to explore role playing, improv, things like that. But for someone who has a lot of stuck energy and it's manifesting in this physical, mental, and emotional rigidity, then maybe really tiny baby steps until you get to the expressive arts could work. So it might just be grounding and breath work. And instead of a full body scan, it might just be focusing on the thumb, for example,
Hmm.
because sometimes there's so much trauma that you can't focus on the other parts of your body. It causes
Yeah.
anxiety and dysregulation. So you
Yeah.
just start small. Um, and when it comes to, for example, drawing or painting, maybe you give them a small sheet of paper, a small square, and you just give them a pencil or crayon or even sand. It's like low ask, just like a bit of sand, get them to sketch something.
Hmm.
Um, so I would say a taste before you kind of get into the full blown, like, I don't know, let's put on an improv performance, for your parents and your friends for your coming out experience. I don't know. But
Yeah.
yeah, I would say it's good in certain contexts. It's not for everyone, but I think it might be for someone who needs to connect more with their right brain, who needs to integrate left brain with what right brain.
Hmm.
So they do these creative, intuitive tasks, but it might also be for, as you said, the former creative, where it's still there.
Hmm.
I don't know. It's a good question. We can brainstorm about this,
Yeah.
but that's
Well,
just my experience.
I love your suggestion of incrementally introducing it. And I think, yeah, just to be able to reconnect gently and slowly and safely to help integrate those practices. I think that's wonderful. Now, look, you've spoken a lot about all the other stuff. I'd love to hear about how does it work with you and a client? What are you seeing? What are your gifts and what can you offer? Talk us through a session.
Sure. So I mentioned the empath gift, and also I received somatic wisdom. So first of all, I tune into my divine team and the participants' divine team, and we set an intention to have clarity and focus for the session. And from there, we might also ground if there's a need in particular for the participant to regulate their nervous system. So, for example, if they're not already having that inner ease and breathing slowly, I will suggest grounding. If they're not in their body, if they've got the monkey mind, they're discombobulated, then we're going to
Mm.
ground. And we're going to slow down the breath. So I might do a breath work session from 5 to 15 minutes that incorporates a mindful, embodied body scan to help them to get out of the head and emotions into the body
Mm.
and to slow down the breath to prepare the body to release stuck energies, to receive energies, and to notice it happening.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's if they're up for it. Sometimes, it's just a bit of a hamster wheel and getting them to do that.
Yeah.
And so you do what you can. But anyway, from there, from the breath work and grounding and the intention setting and setting the space, sometimes there are crystals, sometimes there's a crystal grid, and so on. We then move into the body or the meat, which could be an intuitive reading using my body, whatever hits I get in my body. And so my body parts have symbolism to me, and it incorporates palmistry, and it does speak to other experts channelings about the symbolism of the body. I still have it, we all have our own dictionary. So for those watching who feel like, oh yeah, but like, when my shoulder lights up, it means something different from when your shoulder lights up. That's fine. We all have our own intuitive dictionary, and it's so important to honor that. Like I've had a couple of spiritual mentors say that, including Patrice in my mentorship. So it really sticks. It's true. So you have to figure out your dictionary. You have to explore
Mhm.
as you receive these intuitive hits. So I have
Mm.
the hits in my body, and I also use tools such as my crystals. I make my own card deck. So I have a card deck for myself. Whenever I have questions and I want support from my divine team, I'll just use blank index cards and I'll write potential answers on them. And so sometimes it's yes, no, sometimes it's like 5 options, and then I'll shuffle. You have to connect to the divine forces, right? If you don't, any other energies can come in and take over.
Mm.
So you need to be grounded, you need to connect to the divine, and then you have to be in a calm, centered place. But do the shuffling, and then you pull on the cards, and then if you don't like the answer, try it again. And you might find that it's the same answer over and over. No, I am a math teacher, so I studied science as well. I care about logic, I care about rigor, and I care about evidence. And so I'm not just gonna, take a divine hit and be like, yeah, that's the truth. If I can, I'm gonna be skeptical and I'm gonna find out, can we replicate this? And so with my personal card deck, yes, I can replicate the divine support for me, but I also use other card decks. Some card decks are super awesome. Some card decks are better than others. Let's say that.
Mhm. So
Yeah.
you use the cards, you're tuning into the body. And when you say you get these hits, so I know how it works for you because I've seen you in action in the mentorship, but so you get a pain in your elbow and that represents something and you then get a message for the client. Yeah. Do
Yeah,
you want to
but
give us an
sometimes
example? Some of the like
yeah, for sure. So I really like using the chakras as an organizing a way to structure the sessions. So if someone says, I really want to connect more to loving myself, then I might suggest, hey, let's focus on your heart chakra and your high heart chakra. For those who don't know what the high heart chakra is, it's in between your throat and your heart chakra, where
mhm,
your thymus gland is. So there's your heart chakra, high heart. And even throat chakra, because throat chakra can have to do with authentic communication, right? Being who you truly are and expressing yourself in that way. High heart has to do with connecting to your soul thrill, to what lights you up. And so that's part of self-love. And of course, the heart chakra is about giving and receiving love, not just to others, but to yourself.
mhm,
So based on their intention, I'll suggest some areas of focus if I'm giving hands-on healing in person or remotely. And so I focus on those areas. And once I focus, I start with the chakra. And then I might ask my divine team, hey, do you have any information for me? Then the hits start coming in.
mhm,
And sometimes it's one area, sometimes it moves to other areas as well. And the sensations vary. So it could be a sharp pain. It could be a dull, throbbing pain deep inside my womb. It just depends. And it could be tip of the pointer finger. It could be root of the pointer finger.
mhm.
It's just every spot's different. And I'm still exploring the meanings. Like if you think of a spiral, it's like you think you know what something is, but if you have a beginner's mindset, you'll find that when you come back to that lesson or that topic again, there's so much more to it, right?
Mhm.
As we just become more aligned with our truth, light,
Yeah.
love, and power. There's more. It's like, yeah, you were onto something, but it's like that's just the surface. So that's what I'm discovering, that, there's more, and there's more coming in, and there's a lot I don't know.
Yeah. Yes, so it's a journey. It's an ongoing journey, isn't it? Until we continue to expand and activate our gifts. So it's curiously, I wanted to know, how do you know you're helping the client release what needs to be released? So I can tell, I know that you can pinpoint what it is, then you get an intuitive hit about what it might be referring to, a part of their life or relationship or job or thought or a past trauma or something like that.
Right.
And then how is it that you release it?
That's a good question. So it depends. So sometimes the client feels what I'm feeling, and I'm like, hey, like I just felt this in my hip and then my right heart space and then left shoulder. And then I'm like, yeah, the energy healing, it's still going even though our session ended. And they're like, that just happened to me in that corridor. So they're telling me that they're having sensations in their body. And so
Hmm.
you could go at it that way. Like, are there physical sensations that they're experiencing right now? Because if there are, then that is a change, and a change means
Mm,
something happened. If they
mm,
don't have physical sensations, is there a mental or emotional change? Are they feeling lighter?
Mm,
Is their mindset less rigid? Is it more open? And do they have more of that inner ease? Do they
mm,
have that sense of deep relaxation? You have to do that check-in before the session starts. And I learned this from a spiritual teacher because when you do that check-in, it's like a bookmark, right? Or bookend
mm,
at the start and at the end. Then you'll know for sure, like, was there a change physically, mentally, or emotionally?
mm,
For those who are more perceptive for an energy channel or receiving energy healing, they might be so in tune that they're receiving hits themselves. They're receiving intuitive insights and they're co-creating with me. I do love co-creating with other intuitives when I'm giving
mm.
an energy healing session, and it's super fun because it's just a
Yeah.
conversation. It's like a team, it's
Mm,
teamwork, and we both have different complementary intuitive hits, and it just
mm.
creates this beautiful
Yeah.
picture. So I
Yeah.
hope that makes sense.
Oh, it does. It's really, really cool. I love it. And so you mentioned both remote and on hands-on. And so how can clients get where are you actually working hands-on and you have do you have a place that you practice and where are you based?
Well, when I was in Toronto, I was working at this yoga studio, a couple of yoga studios, and I would do the hands-on during the second part of the yoga session. So it might have been like a hatha plus yin or restorative plus energy healing. It just depends. So that was really cool to find a supportive yoga studio that was open to energy
Mm.
channeling. And it was just such an amazing experience because the yoga studios, they tend to be so beautiful too. So it's just like such an experience to get to do that, and you can play
Mm,
music and so on. But now that I'm
mm,
in Trang, it's like a beach town. I'm just on the beach and I'm not playing music. I don't want to take away from the waves and
oh,
the breeze, and
mm,
the palm trees and the mountains. It's just like that's sacred sound healing and
yeah.
sensations, right? So I'm not gonna play my hipster music and mess that up, right? So yeah, it's such a treat to get to provide yoga, meditation, and energy channeling at the beach. The
Wow.
audience is not quite there. People just want to smoke and drink in the Trang when we visit. It's okay, it is what it is. But
Mm,
you draw the people who are meant to
mm.
receive support from you.
Yeah, incredible. That's amazing. And you do remote sessions as well.
Yes, that's right. I do remote sessions. That's a bulk of what I do. And to me, it's just as powerful. I get the feedback from participants that they're experiencing a lot of things. It's usually like a rush of sensations down their spine and a lot of other fun surprises.
That's incredible. So what is 2025? What have you got in store, Catherine? What are your offerings and what are
Yeah,
your
for sure.
plans?
So I've got my intuitive energy channeling. I've got the intuitive guidance, which is for people who might want coaching. They might want my intuitive insights, but they might not want me to give them energy from their divine team. That's okay. That's like they have strong boundaries there, right? They're not ready for it, but they're ready for a conversation. So I'm
Mm-hmm.
offering intuitive guidance without the energy channeling. But I've
Mm-hmm.
also got the intuitive readings and energy channeling. I've got my yoga classes online as well, and my take is different. I call it expressive somatic chakra yoga to
Mm,
honor all those aspects. There might be expressive movement and expressive arts therapy, like there might be some journaling and some sketching. It just depends on the participants who come. And the somatic part is really important too. And that's where a lot of people are at. Like, let's awaken the senses. Let's get in my body. I'm not in my body, right? It's a rigid log.
mm,
And I don't know how it feels to be in my body. I don't
mm,
know what I'm thinking. I don't know what I'm feeling. So maybe we're just at the somatic part. They're like not expressing yet. And then the chakra yoga honors how every shape activates different energy centers. And there's a sense of releasing, there's a sense of receiving, there's a sense of grounding with the somatic aspect. And so there's a lot to it. And in yoga, you have your opening as you inhale and you close as you exhale. So it's an opportunity every time to receive and to release. So
mm,
there's that. And then I'm doing a guided meditation and energy channeling, a group session. I just started that. I've done it before, but I'm just starting it up again and we'll see how it goes. And because I haven't started this chapter up yet, I'm not sure if I will channel for the group or if I'll channel individually. Like you know how usually
Yeah.
Patrice and Amy, they'll do the guided meditation and then they'll pick a couple of people to help. Um, for me, that remains to be seen. I have to start the first session first and see how that goes. And I I like that I have my guided meditation training. So I'm just curious to see which direction is this going to go in? Like I definitely want to start with chakras and chakra integration, but I also majored in biology. Like I could actually like find some pictures and like talk about like what's going on as we inhale or like let's target those cancer cells in your immune system and like I don't know. It's just like I'm still in like the beginner's mindset kind of potential mode. It's still a seed
I
since I
love it.
just decided I'd do it yesterday night. So yeah, there are those online classes, and then I do a bunch of in-person stuff into training. Because I'm in Southeast Asia, and I just moved here in November, I do want to do retreats here. And I don't know, I lightly talked about it with Patrice, but it'd be so cool if you and Amy and Patrice and a couple of others
Mm,
ran a retreat. Wouldn't that be cool? And I could help
yeah.
you guys scout and set things up and it would just
Beautiful.
be amazing. Yeah.
Yeah. We
So
need
I would
that.
say retreats and collaborations. I'm just so inspired by the collaboration by your crew. Because you know,
Mm,
with the synergy, 1 plus 1 is not two, it's
yeah.
five, and sometimes 10 or 100, right?
Yeah.
And you see that magic in those group sessions. It's so beautiful to collaborate. And so that's what I'm interested in, retreats and
Yeah. Yeah.
collaboration, but also a deepening of my own abilities, you know, just things keep opening up the more I practice and the more I study with others who are committed to their highest truth, love, light, and power.
Yes, yes. It's so wonderful to connect with people who are on that same wavelength, isn't it? And we have that incredible mentorship group that we can connect with all three mentorships that have gone through with Patrice, and then a fourth one starting up in a couple of weeks. Um, we just have that network of people that we can connect with from all over the world. So I
Can
think,
I
yeah, I
share
love,
a little bit about the mentorship for those who might be interested in applying?
yes, definitely. Go ahead.
Okay, cool. So yeah, you apply if you have intuitive gifts, and you have a pure heart. And so if you get in, you will join a group, and the sessions happen at 9 a.m. or 6 p.m. France time. So the sessions tend to span around 2 hours. They can go to 3 hours. And the first few sessions are about clearing blockages, activations, and upgrades for each of the mentees. And then after the first two sessions, clients may come on, and as a group, you work on the client or on each other. And so there's just a lot of magic and miracles. There's a lot of awakening to, you know, your deepest self, to your abilities. It's like Harry Potter, it's like X-Men. It's just
Yeah,
amazing.
it's
It's so
fantastic.
amazing. Yeah.
Yeah, that's wonderful. I know there's a whole episode just describing the mentorship with Patrice and I just interviewed him, and of course Amy's part of that. So if you're interested in hearing a little bit more of that, please subscribe to the channel, and you'll see it linked not too far below. But it's lovely to hear that that recommendation from a little graduate that's just finished. And it's wonderful because I can say the same thing because obviously I went through it as well last year. So it's just been wonderful to chat to you, Catherine. Is there anything else you want to leave the listeners with to, something that
Yeah,
we
yes, I
haven't?
would. Yes. So I learned from a teacher that it's really important to do the things that light you up. And so, first of all, you need to notice what it is, right? That just gets you excited, you know, that gets you kind of on fire a bit. And then if you can just do that every day, you can start with 5 minutes, bubble bath, pet your dog, whatever, right? And then just try to do it more and more. And then at some point, hopefully, if you're prioritizing this, your day will be full of these wonderful little experiences that light you up, and it just naturally moves you into a high vibrational state.
I love that. Yes, because we need to become in that. We need to get into that high vibrational state for our health and wellness journey, don't we? Yeah.
Yes.
I love it. And I feel already lightened from speaking to you, Catherine. So thank you so much for for helping me raise my vibration for the last 40 minutes or so. And I look forward to connecting with you again very soon.
Likewise. Thanks, Peggy.
You're very welcome.